Alright, so in class we've been talking about functions, and we've been talking about how to evaluate functions. So let's say that we are looking at this function here. And let's say that we're asked to evaluate it when our input is 3. So remember, whatever is inside those parentheses is our input. Alright, so let's look at what the function f of x does to our input. So our function f of x takes that input, it's going to square it, then it's going to add 1 to that input. Then after it's done doing all of that, we're going to divide by our input. So let's see, if our input is 3, then the function f of x is going to take that 3 and it's going to square it, and then it's going to add 1, and then after that, it's going to divide by our input, which is 3. So we're going to end up with, let's see, so that's 10 divided by 3. Okay, so that's going to be, let's see, 3 goes into 10 3 times with a leftover of 1/3, so that's going to be 3.3 repeating. Alright, so let's say that we wanted to check our answer. So one way that we could do that is that we can check our answer by using our calculator. So let's see, if I wanted to use my TI-84 here, which by the way, if you have a TI-84 Plus or 83, should be the same. I'll do another video using a TI-89 in just a second. So the first thing we want to do is that we want to input this function here. So the way we're going to do that is that we are going to go to y equals and click that button. And you'll see that we'll have y sub 1 equals, y sub 2 equals. You can use any of these. You can also put in multiple functions. Right now we're just going to stick with this guy here. So let's see. Our function takes x squared, then it adds 1, then it divides it by x. So we're grouping together this x squared plus 1 before we divide it by x. So to tell the calculator to group that together, we need to go down to these parentheses buttons. We're going to hit parentheses. Then, to input the x, well, you'll see this key here. That key, whenever you're inputting a function, will automatically choose the variable for you. So if we just click it, it'll input x for us. Alright, so we want to take that x and we want to square it. So we're going to go down here to the caret button, raise to the second. Alright, then we're going to hit over to let our calculator know that we want to get out of that exponent, plus 1. Now that we're done with the top of the fraction, we're going to go ahead and hit the other parenthesis to close that. So anytime you have fractions, you want to close the top in with those parentheses so you're grouping it together. Alright, now we're going to divide by x. And now to save this, we're going to go ahead and hit enter. So enter. Now we have our function. So f of x equals x squared plus 1 over x. y1 equals x squared plus 1 over x. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hit second, quit, to get back to our home screen. So this second button, it's going to activate any of these blue commands here. So you can kind of think of it as the shift key of your calculator. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is that we want to call on that function y1, which remember is the same thing as f of x. So to do that, you're going to go down to this bars key. It's right below this little arrow pad. So hit bars. And then here you'll see we have bars, window, zoom, etc. We don't want any of these. Go ahead and go over to y bars. So y bars, after you hit this right arrow key, it's going to actually ask you if you want to go to function, parametric, polar, on or off. Go ahead and hit enter with this. So hit enter. We want to select that first one. Now it's going to give you a list of functions. So what function do we want? Well, we want y1. That was the function that we entered this equation for. So we want y1, so let's hit enter. And now you should have y1 on your home screen. Now, what did we want to enter for y1? Well, we wanted to check what the value was when we input 3. So what we're going to do to make sure that we're evaluating y1 at 3 is we're going to hit parenthesis, 3, parenthesis. So y1, open parenthesis, 3, close parenthesis. Now let's hit enter and see what we get. So we get 3.333 repeating, and that's exactly what we wanted. Perfect. Alright, let's try it again for these guys. So let's say we have f of -2. So we want to input -2 into our function for x. So remember, to get that y1, we are going to go down to vars, hit the right arrow key to get y vars. Want to evaluate a function, so we're going to choose that one and hit enter. We want y1 again because we're evaluating at the same function, so we're going to hit enter. And now, same thing, instead of inputting 3, we want to input -2. So we're going to hit parenthesis. Now here's the key, is when you're entering in a negative number, don't hit this minus button. Your calculator has its own negative, so this is a special button for negative values. So hit -2, end parenthesis, and hit enter. And we get a value of -2.5. Nice. So this would be -2.5. Now if you do accidentally hit that minus key, what you're going to get is you're going to get an error. So let's try it. So if we had put in -2, and notice that this minus sign and this negative are different sizes. So let's see, enter. Oh, it tells us we got a syntax error. That means that we probably entered in something incorrectly. Okay, let's try this very last one. F of 0.7. So we're going to go to vars, y vars, enter, enter, parenthesis, 0.7, and evaluate, and we get 2.12857, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter 2.13. Great. So just a word of warning, I want you to actually evaluate these by hand, and I only want you to use your calculator to check your work. So I want you to get in the habit of learning how to input things into your functions. Okay, this is going to be really important, especially when we start moving into inputting things that aren't numbers. So for example, your calculator won't let you do something like inputting y of x plus 3. Okay, it'll give you a number. However, I know that if I input x plus 3 into this function, I shouldn't get a number out. So if I take, let's see, let's draw a little line here. If I take f of x plus 3, that's going to be the input, which is x plus 3, squared plus 1 divided by x plus 3. And notice I still have my x here and an x here, so I shouldn't get a number out. So I still have this x here and this x here, which means that this should not equal 50 point whatever the calculator said. So only use the calculator to check your work, because I still want you guys to get familiar with entering things like this.